Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining Inclusiv for our Black History Month webinar. Today we are going to be introducing you to another organization called the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs. We have a really nice agenda lined up for you. To begin the session, we wanted to have an overview of the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs, which will be shared by Amber Bond, the Senior Program Project Director. Then we're going to hear from an Inclusiv and a member of Inclusiv and of the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs. So Blanche Jackson, who's also one of our board members. She's the CEO of Stepping Stones Community Credit Union, and we'll have time for questions and just general discussion towards the end of the session. So I wanted you to know before we begin that you'll have a chance to, we'll take questions at the end, but feel free to think about your questions throughout, and then you can type them at any time. And again, this session is going to be recorded, and the recording and slides will be shared after today's event. We're just so glad you could join us. Just for a little bit of context, last fall we were introduced to the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs, and we thought it would be a really wonderful opportunity to share with you all the work that they're doing and the supports they're providing for their members. They have over 50 members who are all CDFIs, but of varying types. So not just credit unions, they actually have other types of CDFIs. They're part of their membership. And we just thought, there's similarities, but also differences. And so we wanted to kind of raise that up and lift it up, especially during Black History Month. But again, this work that we're doing is year round. So they also have a lot of wonderful resources on their website, as well as a lot of events that they've been hosting this month as well. So I just would refer you to their social media, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and their website. So I'm going to pass things off to Amber. But one brief thing I'd say about Amber is that she is the Senior Project Director for the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs, where she serves as a strategic thought partner responsible for providing direction and management oversight of multiple key program initiatives and departments. As director, she develops customized project management plans to oversee programs and initiatives critical to African American Alliance's strategy. So welcome, Amber. Thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you, Monica. I appreciate you extending the invitation for us to be here today and to share with the membership. And just hello to all of the members. I'm hoping to give you some additional information about the Alliance. Maybe you've heard of us, maybe you have not, but I certainly would love to outline why the organization exists and what we do for our members and offer to our members. So to get started, just to kind of give some history and context for the Alliance, back in 2018, Linwood Long, our president and CEO, at the time, he was the president and CEO of a CDFI located in North Carolina. He reached out to some other Black-led CDFI CEOs just within his network and struck a conversation to see if he could assemble everyone together and find out if there were some commonalities with their organizations. And sure enough, in that meeting in 2018, there were several. So shared challenges around access to capital, definitely a need and opportunity for them to collaborate together and to learn from one another. And so out of that meeting 4 years ago, birthed the Alliance. And at the center of this need, this is just one statistic of many that exist, but we see that the balance sheets of Black-led CDFIs suffer from a lot of the inequities that the small businesses and families that they serve also suffer from. And so the goal here was to say, if we know there are a number of challenges across our organizations, if we can get together and begin to build advocacy work and pull resources together, that it could really help to impact every organization and the clients that they serve. And so the primary needs that we look to address for our members are finding multi-year grant and equity investments for them. We want to be a source, eventually a direct source, but also a resource to low cost, long-term flexible capital for these organizations to grow and expand their capacity, to help address a lot of the technology infrastructure needs that exist, to provide those development services to the CEOs as it relates to mentorship and professional development, and then give greater access to insight about not just the CDFI fund, but a lot of federal programs that exist that, for CDFIs to access as well. And so the Alliance was born, and we're a coalition of now 58 Black-led CDFIs across the country that are aimed to address the growing racial wealth gap that exists in this country, with Black families and Black individuals really lagging behind in most indicators of quality of life, and to identify opportunities where we can leverage the work that each other are doing to create advocacy and policy work to fight for the equitable distribution of resources. So as I mentioned just a second ago, we just had 2 new members join, so we're now at 58. Our members cover the entire, in terms of service area, now cover the entire country and touch on all buckets related to CDFI focus. In addition to having a couple credit unions, we have mostly loan funds, but also a venture capital fund in our network as well. So we have a very active membership. We have 3 committees and 3 working groups, and we ask that every member participate in at least one of those buckets, whether it's a committee or a working group. But we function through our member services capacity and learning. So that is the group that helps shape the work that we do in terms of curating content and programs to help our CEOs and their management staff to grow professionally. Our Investment Finance and Sustainable Business Committee. So they focus on the financing side, but also help support our development efforts to raise capital and the administration of that capital once it reaches our doors. And Advocacy and Partnership Committee. So this really spans the gambit. I mean, we have partnerships with or working groups established with SBA, EDA, MBDA, and a number of others. And so this group sort of oversees the work that we do in this space in terms of advocacy and developing those partnerships. So we're a young group, but have been able to garner a good amount of support over these last couple of years. And this is just a quick list of some of our funders and how they've been able to support us in helping us to support our members. We are getting ready to launch officially our Black Renaissance Fund. We've established a goal of raising $100 million over the next 8 years that we will use as pass-through grants and bringing patient capital to our members. And then we are aiming to raise another $25 million to support our general operating budget. Just a quick look at our board and leadership. So some of these faces may be familiar. Between the 6 of these folks, it's over 200, close to 250 years of experience in CDFI, policy advocacy, and all the areas that I just named. So we have an extremely experienced and talented board and president that is guiding the work that we do. So just to highlight a couple of the things that we feel were early accomplishments at this stage in our development and in existence. So we started our women-led initiative. We have 24 Black women CDFI CEOs. And so we developed a program specifically for them to help address a lot of the challenges that they face as double minorities in this space. Some of it overlaps with the work that we're doing in general for our membership base, but we curate specific content, have peer-to-peer opportunities for our women. We have our African American Equity Impact Scorecard campaign that we launched in November of last year. And just as an aside for our scorecard, the short version is we created an impact measurement tool with Community Vision, which is a CDFI in California. And we started the campaign to get funders and also practitioners, both engaged with the scorecard, and I'll give more detail about the criteria within it a little bit later. But we're aiming to help the industry reapproach the way they think about impact investing beyond some of the typical statistics that we're used to producing around, the demographics of our borrowers or clients and the dollars deployed or loans, number of loans deployed, but really thinking about other dynamics, like, is this transaction building power within Black communities? Is it equitable? Is it creating, the economic development and jobs there, but other factors that we're just not used to including in our impact investing decisions. And then our Building High Impact CDFI of Color program, which I'll talk in more detail about shortly. So as I mentioned, we've been able to foster working relationships with a number of federal agencies and programs, helping our members to get access or learn more and get engaged with them. One I didn't mention earlier is the new market tax credits. We have a working group established specifically for that program. We have 18 investors and growing into the Alliance work. And a quick highlight, several of our members, 12 of them, were active in the PPP loans and together deployed $4.5 billion in PPP loans in that second round. So we're extremely proud of the work that our members are doing in their respective communities and target markets. We produced a publication called The Fierce Urgency of Now, which we strongly believe was an integral influence on the $12 billion in set aside in the latest round of the CDFI funding. And we continue to do that public policy work through a number of meetings, articles. We just hired a policy and research director, so we have increased focus on that work for 2022 and beyond. So coming back to some of our examples of programs that we have in place to help our membership. So in partnership with Prosperity Now, we have a cohort going right now with our Building High Impact CDFIs of Color. This is a 17-month program for our CEOs that touches on a number of different areas to help them build capacity and professional development. So helping them to understand that intersection of income, assets, and racial economic inequality, expand their networks, equip their leaders within their organization, and a number of other things. We have our Open for Business Fund, another partnership with Prosperity Now, where we have smaller asset size CDFIs that will be mentored by larger asset size CDFIs. Those larger asset and longer existing CDFIs are coming together to build a playbook to help specifically with technical assistance. So we're pulling together some of those best practices, and then those will be shared within the industry, but specifically with those earlier and smaller CDFIs to help give them guidance in building their programs. And that program in particular also came with an operating grant for those that participated of, I think, $100,000 or $150,000. I touched on our women's initiative already. And then our Kellogg-Finastra technology program. So in polling our membership and understanding what the needs were for our client base, our CDFIs, technology continued to come up, that infrastructure struggle. And so this is a partnership with the Alliance, CDC Small Business Finance, Capital Impact Partners, and Finastra, funded by the Kellogg Foundation. We're giving minority-led CDFIs and lenders, up to 15 in this first cohort, subsidized access to the Finastra technology for 3 years to help them with that infrastructure piece to expand their capacity on the small business lending. So circling back to the scorecard, here are those 5 areas, and I'm happy to go into more detail with this individually with you or later if we have time. But our African American Equity Impact Scorecard has 5 areas. They're all with a total of 36 questions that are weighted, but it touches on that leadership and power building, economic development and job creation, equity, how community-centered that project is, and how catalytic it is for the recipient and the community. And again, the goal is for use at the practitioner level, but also at the funder level, so that these elements become really at the foundation of the decision we make when we're moving resources from a funder to practitioner and from practitioner to community member. We also just recently, last September, finished our strategic plan, which outlined where we're headed for the next 3 years. And so out of that strategic planning session, we came out with a number of things, our North Star, and that will guide the work that we do. But we prioritize and center the voices and needs of Black communities to inform our work. We believe we are stronger together, and that in the power of collective action and community support, we believe this work is done in partnerships. And we continue to push for that economic liberation and freedom within Black communities. So our revised mission statement, again, coming out of our strategic plan, is that AAA is a membership-driven intermediary organization that aims to build capacity of member organization, build bridges to economic stability, well-being, and wealth for Black individuals, families, and communities, and build power in Black communities by challenging and influencing financial sectors to operate more equitably. So just digging a little deeper into those sort of our 3 pillars is what we call them, that guide our work and that came out of our strategic plan. Just some examples of what this really means in practice for us and our focus is that we're building that capacity. So we want to expand financial capacity for our members through collective and cooperative strategies. We want to strengthen that technological and operational capabilities, build a more robust human capital pipeline for Black-led CDFIs. So this is something we'll be focusing on a little later in the year. We hear very often from our members that it's tough to recruit, it's tough to retain, and we spend a lot of time and money training folks that leave, within a year or 2. So we want to look at strategies for helping to build that pipeline, providing experience, and then even connection to the marketplace for folks that are looking to do this work. And then develop a culture of learning and support. So again, we have a lot of programs that center around helping our CEOs to increase their professional development and giving them really actionable skills that they can take back to their organizations right away.
I think we might be having a technical glitch right at this moment, but as you were listening, hopefully you were able to start thinking of your questions, and feel free to type your questions in the chat while we wait. I'm sure Amber's just trying to get reconnected. Blanche, if maybe it might be a good segue to share a little bit about your story as
Sure.
we wait for Amber.
Sure. Thank you, Monica. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Blanche Jackson, the CEO of Stepping Stones Community Federal Credit Union in Wilmington, Delaware. I appreciate being invited to participate in this call. I'll start out with some things about the credit union. So we are a LID, Minority Depository Institution, and a CDFI in the city of Wilmington. We are a little over 4 million in assets, and we cater to the unbanked and underbanked in the city. I wanted to spend a little bit of time just telling you some of our accomplishments over the last couple of years. We were chartered in 2011. We were founded by a nonprofit in Wilmington called the Delaware Community Reinvestment Action Council. They spent years, probably 30 plus years, working with the residents in the state of Delaware, being able to provide them help with credit. They had a tax clinic, a housing clinic, but they realized the only thing that they were missing was getting the residents access to capital. And that's sort of how the credit union was born. It took several years to get chartered, but once we got chartered, our mission is to serve the people in the city of Wilmington. Over the last couple of years, we have done a couple of things. You'll see behind me our community-driven banking vehicle. We have a mobile branch that we take out into the community. We can open accounts on that branch. We can also issue instant issuance ATM cards. So we take that to community events. We partner with city organizations and we go there and do financial workshops or just talk about the credit union. But at the same time, we can also offer them membership. Some of the things that we've done this year is we fostered a relationship with the Department of Corrections in Delaware, and we bank anyone who is in any of their facilities throughout the state, with our hope being that as they're saving money, when they are ready to be released, they have money to start their lives over again. We have over 220 members from that from those organizations, and they've saved over $80,000 so far. So we are really proud of that partnership and that relationship and what it's going to bring to them. We also offer ATM cards, and at the end of the second quarter, we should start with debit cards. And then on March the 1st, I'm proud to say that we will actually be doing mortgage loans in the city of Wilmington, trying to help renters turn into homeowners. So we're going to work on offering small dollar mortgages to anyone who lives, works, worships in the city of Wilmington. So that's our probably biggest venture for this year. And I just wanted to say that our relationship with Inclusiv started when I became CEO in 2018. It was really important for me to find organizations that I could foster relationships with that would help me with resources and any issues or questions that I had about growing the credit union. We are the smallest credit union in Delaware. So it was very important to find organizations that would work with us. So hence the relationship with Inclusiv has been just something that I probably wouldn't be able to grow the credit union the way we have without their support. And then being introduced to the AAA for CDFI CEOs has been something that I'm really looking forward to exploring. I can see how their mission and their objectives line very closely in with our credit union. So that relationship, I just see helping us find more funding, work on our initiatives. All in all, I think both organizations are very vital to African American credit unions. And if you look at their history and the things that they've done, I think everyone would agree that they are definitely two organizations that we should be partnering with. So I will turn this back to Amber so she can finish her presentation. And I will be available for any questions.
Blanche, please, if you had more to share, don't stop. We can always come back to finish. I was near the end anyway, so I don't want to interrupt what you're sharing.
No, you didn't. I just wanted to give an overview of the credit union and the relationship between us and the two organizations. which I think I did. And if anybody has any questions, I'll be here to answer any.
Okay. All right, I'm going to share my screen for my last, I think, 2 slides. I'm so sorry about that. My network went out on me for a second, so it kicked me out and I had to come back in. So I do apologize for that. The joys of working from home in this digital age. Let's see if we can get. So I think I was just at the end of sharing the details of our strategic plan and that last final pillar on building power. And then I'll just briefly talk about, membership, eligibility, and then I'll open it up for questions. Actually, I'm not sure when I'm not sure when it cut off. So I'm assuming you probably heard the first part of this, but we just want to hold the financial sector accountable for the investments that they make and that it's equitable, and support and advance public policies and advocacy efforts that benefit the stabilization and growth of Black communities. And so just a little bit about membership. So we do have a tiered membership pricing structure, and it's based on asset size. So the cost of membership will range between $1,000 and I think $2,500, depending on the size of your organization. For those who may not be CDFIs, but you are aspiring CDFIs, we just added an associate level membership, and we would plan to build some programming around helping organizations obtain their CDFI certification. So again, in addition to us serving you to help you build capacity in a number of areas, we also want to give that access into programs and certifications. We have a partnership that we're forming with ARIS to help our members introduce them to it, help them with their initial rating, and so some special features that will be along with that package. So a lot of exclusive things that we are going after and pursuing for our membership. In our first full operating year, 2021, we were able to award nearly $1 million in professional development and operating grants for our members. So we're not just talking the talk, we really are out in the field, advocating, attracting resources, and listening to what our members need so that we can be a valued part of their resource and network as they continue to operate and grow their organizations. So I will put my contact information in the chat, and as well as our membership services director, if you do decide you want more information on how to become a member. But I'll open the door to questions at this time. So I'll turn it back over to Monica.
So thanks, Amber, appreciate that. Appreciate the overview, and also thank you, Blanche, for sharing your about your credit union for those that didn't know, and then also a little bit about how and why you're a member of both organizations. This is a good time for us to open it up to just take your questions as listeners who've been hearing about the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs. I think just to get us kicked off and started, I'll have them for you, Amber. One question was about the women's initiative that you mentioned, and you mentioned being a double minority and that you wanted to have this kind of group for women. What exactly are the kind of the programmatic components of that? What have they done? What do they talk about? Could you share a little bit more about that part?
Sure. So last year we really spent, so I joined the Alliance late summer. And so my first task was to listen. Can I assemble these women together and really just listen to them? So we hosted a couple of listening sessions that were guided to sort of understand what those needs were and to help prioritize them. And so the end of that was the development of an outline that kind of is guiding our work for this year. So we looked at a couple of areas. So one is that peer-to-peer sharing, right? One of the things that many of them had in feedback was just it feels so good just to be on a call with other Black women that are doing this work and leading this work. And because in their respective cities, counties, states, they're in silos. And so just having that opportunity to connect was really important, that it was a safe space to share frustrations, challenges, but also help each other identify solutions. So that's component number one. The second component to it is we want to bring in other leading women in the industry and even in outside fields to speak and to share. Again, creating that safe space for other minority women in leadership roles to come in and be transparent. So that's that sort of just encouraging part. And so we have an exciting list of women that we want to bring to that group that we are pursuing. I don't want to share the names yet, but you won't want to miss it. I'll just say that. And then the other part is making sure that they are aware of any industry trends and things that they need to be aware of. So for example, our March meeting will be focusing on the shift in digital development and fundraising. So, now that we're in this new age where a lot of the ways that we used to raise money, breakfasts, lunches, fundraisers, and all these other, ways to go after public audiences have really shifted. How can you implement digital strategies for your development and in fundraising for your organization that makes your budget sustainable? So things like that. So I call them hot topics. So we'll have hot topics, we'll have those guests come in, and then we'll have the peer-to-peer opportunities, because there's so many things that these women are doing, amazing things, and are really subject matter expertise, carry subject matter expertise in different areas. So we want to bring folks in, but we also just want to give them a chance to highlight what they're doing and share that. What were your wins? What were your losses? What did you learn in some of these really, major spaces? So, and then money, right? Nothing trumps money. So the other part of this is to raise capital specifically for these women. So we have a goal of for this year raising $500,000 for operating capital for the ladies, and then we're also looking at some technology infrastructure pieces. One of the things that they shared was, it's one thing to go out and get a grant, and then they hire someone individually to help connect systems and think about that at an organization level, but there's really nobody providing that thought leadership. So we want to serve that role is contracting with someone who can help us think through digital transformation at a much higher level versus just organizationally. So.
Thank you. We have a question that came in about the fees associated with membership. I think you meant tiered, but maybe giving the group a little bit of a chance to understand a little bit about maybe even the starting tier, just so that they can understand how the range or something.
Sure. So I'm going to pull it up so that I don't give you the wrong information. Like I said, I want to say it's up to 10 million in assets is the first tier, and that's $1,000 annually. But I'm going to double check that now. And our highest tier is the $2,500 per year for membership.
Great, good, thank you. Another question came in from Credit Union Jama. Says, RCU has applied for CDFI certification. Is she eligible to join if she's approved? So it sounds like they're not yet CDFI certified, but they've already applied, so they're on their way. If you had any thoughts about that.
Sure. So if you have not received your certification yet, then you would be eligible for our associate level membership, which is $250, and that's for, we call it emerging CDFIs. So let's say you join, so the associate membership does not have all access and benefits of the full membership, but you would still be able to participate in some of our programs, learning opportunities, attend the different webinars and things that we present, but you would not have voting rights, let's say, for the actual, have voting rights for those type of actions. You would, I think, be able to attend our annual meeting. So it's restricted, it has limitations. But let's say you joined as an associate member and then obtain your certification, we could upgrade your membership mid-year if, because it would be prorated on a prorated basis. So yes, you can join at the associate level now and then potentially upgrade if your certification comes within the next 12 months.
So Amber, another question is about it sounded like access to capital. So you mentioned some just grants in general and supporting the women, but I think one of your earlier slides at the front end was that you guys want to make it part of your, a big component of your program is to get access to capital to CDFIs. And so I don't know if that's part of your overall fundraising goal, but like under what circumstances or how would they qualify, or who are you giving capital to? Like, could you talk about just that programmatic piece of the capital pipeline or access in your work, at your organization?
Sure. So one of our goals is to become a CDFI ourselves. And in that structure, we want to relend. We want to borrow low-cost capital and then lend it out to our members. So we want to become that source of capital for our membership. But we also, so that Renaissance Fund, I think that's the slide that you're referring to, where we are looking to raise $100 million. That would become about up to 3 different forms of capital investments for our membership, but we would serve as the intermediary in between for that. So we would become the lender, or would become that source of equity funds for our membership base. So I can't share more yet about structure and specific eligibility requirements on that, because I think it will, just as in your organization, some of that will vary based on the funder and, terms and things like that.
The question came in that says, does upgrading mean paying the difference between associate membership and full membership? I guess we have a few emerging CDFIs in the call. And hi, Andre.
But yes, that's correct. It would just be paying the difference in the fees.
So I think we can take any questions from the group. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type in chat. Also, Amber shared her email address above, abond@AAACDFI.org, and the website is also AAACDFI.org. I was very curious about these new initiatives that you have with Prosperity Now, like the one about the 17-month program. And so the CEOs, is it a limited cohort? How have they already started? Have you made the selection for the high impact nonprofits of color?
Yes. So for that one, it is a cohort that's moving along a time spectrum, and they are in the middle of the cohort. But right now, all things suggest that there'll be a second cohort, probably in the fall, beginning in the fall of this year.
And the Open for Business program, it sounds like the mentorship with a small asset size and a large. Like when you mentioned the $150,000 grant, is it per partnership or for the initiative as a whole?
So that is for the larger established CDFIs that agree to participate in the front end of the program to build those playbooks for the technical assistance. So each organization that participates as the mentor and the builder of the playbook, those are the organizations that would receive $100,000 to $150,000 each for an operating capital, partly to cover their work in participating in the program, but also in general to just support their budgets.
Just out of curiosity, because it comes up for us too, but how do you guys define smaller asset size? What do you guys have a kind of a cap? What do you consider small versus a large CDFI?
So actually, about a little more than half of our members have assets of 20 million or less. And so, small is relative. right? But we would sort of 20 million and under to be those CDFIs that are smaller asset size. And to find them, I'll be honest, I think we do a lot of general sort of marketing, but we haven't done a lot of targeted at those. Or right now, it's a ton of word of mouth and folks sharing within their networks that we've been able to find these organizations.
Mhm. Thank you. Amber, so a question also came in that saying, is AAA based in North Carolina? And would the chairman or yourself be available to speak? Very specific, in Charlotte in July.
Oh, wow, okay. So
the invitation.
So we are actually based in Florida, but a good number of us live and work virtually from North Carolina, which includes myself and Linwood. So there's a possibility that we would be able to be available for an in-person meeting in Charlotte in July. It just is more about, scheduling. So feel free to email me and let me know the details, and then we can go from there.
Great. Amber, I had a question about the demographics of the membership. I know this is a little tricky, but if it's the Alliance of CDFI CEOs and it's Black led, is it more about the CEO being Black or the organization makeup being African American?
So that criteria does rest with the CEO, and actually the CEO is the member, not the organization. So even, coming back to that fee piece, some of the organizations pay for their CEO to be a member, and some of the CEOs pay the fee for membership on their own. But it does rest with the CEO, the leader. One of the advocacy efforts that we've been working on is trying to get a set of minority definitions adopted at a federal level to help increase some of the, we would hope, set asides for minority led. And it looked at approaching that from the leader. So is the president or CEO minority? Are they minority serving, and how we would define that? Or are they minority led from a board composition standpoint? So we're exploring how we can use all of those approaches to help drive resources to minority serving and minority led organizations. But for our membership specifically, it's with the president or the CEO.
And Blanche, I was wondering about, how did you hear about the Alliance? Like, at what point did you hear about it? And had you always known about it? Had it been on your radar? Or is it something, just telling us a little bit about how you got connected?
Sure. So
no, like this one's for Blanche, not Amber.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. There's actually an Alliance member, and I think he's a board member, Van Hampton. He from True Access Capital, which is a CDFI in Wilmington, Delaware. And he recommended the Alliance to me. He was heavily involved, I believe, in it getting started. And he recommended me to them and them to me. And we started the conversation probably about a year ago. And it's been a very good organization.
Great, thank you. And Amber, maybe you could say a little bit about the credit union, not just the credit unions in your membership, but I will say for the folks on the line, like Bill Bynum, which is one of the Inclusiv members, is also a member of your group. But what other types of organizations are part of your Alliance? Like, I just would maybe be helpful for them to understand who is in your network.
Sure.
Not people, but like maybe organizations that they recognize as well.
Oh, sure. So you mean so in terms of types of organizations, the majority of our members are loan funds. They're loan funds that focus on small business. But we have a number of credit unions, we have a venture capital fund, and we have a number of organizations that focus on affordable housing and also commercial real estate development. So we have a little bit of everything, but the majority of our members are loan funds that focus on a small business.
Okay, thanks. And then you mentioned earlier annual meeting. Has that meeting already happened for this year, or is it gonna, do you have plans for 2022? Is it in person or just virtual? Just, giving people a sense of if you convene, and then because you mentioned voting rights too.
Sure, I can touch on that. So our first annual meeting will be this June, it'll be actually June 14th. We were hoping that it would be in person, and that is the goal going forward. But for this one in particular, it will be virtual. Yeah, so it'll be June 14th. We're looking at noon to 5 Eastern time. But we're still hammering out the details and the outline for that. So more details on that coming soon.
So I think we've questions are slowing down. So I just want to put the last contact info slide up.
Okay, sure. I can do that.
Well, thank you everybody for joining today's webinar, an introduction to the African American Alliance of CDFI CEOs. It was really wonderful to have you, Amber and Blanche. Thank you both for joining us today. If anybody has any questions about their work, feel free to reach out to Amber directly, A. Bond at AAACDFI.org. She also listed the email address for membership services in case you're interested in membership. So it's Angela Milton, A. Milton at AAACDFI.org. My contact info is also available if you have questions about the supports Inclusiv has for Black credit unions in particular, an initiative called Inclusive Black Communities, as well as MDI support in general. We're very busy right now with CDFI work, and we are working really closely with our credit unions to help as many of them get CDFI certified as possible because of this, particularly because there's a minority lending program that will be announced this spring or summer. So we want to get as many people set up for that initiative as well. But there's work happening right now with our CDFI TA and FA grants. So I just want to let you know that, reminders and calls and nudges will be coming your way. And thank you all for participating and joining us and listening and to learn more. Blanche has also provided her email address, bjackson@steppingstonescfcu.org. So thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you all. And thank you,
Thank
Monica,
you.
for inviting us to participate. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.